local health district is phenomenal as well. So she keeps us posted on important information about COVID-19. And thank you, Ms. Kim Jackson, for all that you do for us, as well as all our other board members. But I really appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate your text last night asking me to come in and talk a few minutes. And again, I want to thank the kitchen ladies in our school district. You are phenomenal. And Mr. Will Brown, thank you. And as well as Mr. Bruce McAllister, his folks to do the transportation and get all that coordinated and drop off the 23 different locations. Phenomenal.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, Mr. Nate Huggins, Superintendent for Caldwell County Schools, we appreciate you being here. And of course, we're getting ready to go live to the Caldwell County Courthouse. John Miller is over there, and we're going to be having our fiscal court meeting live here on WPKY. So hang out for just a minute. We're going to get everything connected and be right back.
Celebrating 70 years of community service. We're 1580, 103.3 WPKY Princeton.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Chris Foster. The Summer Olympics being delayed now for about a year due to the coronavirus pandemic and athletes not being able to train. That announcement from the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. There's progress reported on a coronavirus stimulus bill in the Senate, with both sides now saying there are just a few minor sticking points left before a vote, maybe this evening.
I know it. You got to be careful.
Larger issues.
Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says the security package includes corporate bailouts with no strings attached.
Maybe the majority leader thinks it's unfair to ask protections for workers and labor to companies that are getting hundreds of billions of dollars.
Republicans blasted Democrats for including environmental initiatives, including tax credits for solar and wind power.
Fox's Rachel Sutherland. There are now more than 46,000 cases of the virus reported in the U.S. That's a third more than just yesterday. Deaths in the United States now 593. This is a Fox News alert.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jeff Boone, will you lead us in prayer?
Dear Lord, we bow before you this morning, different times we're living in, dear Lord. We understand that you're in control and we're not, and dear Lord, that this virus has proven that to us and slowing us down and stopping us. And dear Lord, help us that we might stop and focus on you. And dear Lord, I pray this morning as we meet here, I pray that you might guide us in the decisions that we need to make, that you'd have us to make to care for the people that we're elected to represent. Dear Lord, I pray that you'll work in and through us to strive to help those and care for those that we've been elected by. And dear Lord, I pray that you will be with our country. I pray you'll be with our leaders. I pray you'll be with our state. Dear Lord, I pray you'll be with the leaders there. And dear Lord, I pray that you will guide each and every one in the direction you have them to go. Dear Lord, I pray you'll be with county officials. I pray you'll be with the city officials. I pray you'll be with the first responders. I pray you'll be with the medical profession. Dear Lord, I pray that you'll be with all the ones who are not allowed to just sit home and be protected from this. As I'm reminded, dear Lord, so many people fussing, so many people complaining that they're locked in home and can't go here, can't go there. And dear Lord, a precious nurse tucked in the corner with her hands over her head saying, I'm afraid of what I'm taking home to my children while I'm trying to care for all these here. And dear Lord, help us to be mindful of the position you've placed us in, and help us to be mindful of the decisions we make, how we take advantage, how we use the time that you blessed us with on your earth. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, a little different setup, something we're not used to. But I do want to go ahead and thank WPKY and Beth Mann and Mark Miller. He's putting this live on Facebook, and welcome everybody out there. All right, I do call this meeting to order. Roll call, Tony.
Judge Executive Larry Carlin.
Here.
Magistrates, District 1, Albert Bennett.
Here.
District 2, Jeff Button.
Here.
District 3, Brent Stowen.
Here.
District 4, Jeff Sims.
Here.
County Attorney Massey.
Here.
Road Supervisor Lane.
Here.
Treasurer Harper. Here.
Okay, first thing on your agenda is to approve the agenda. It's been shortened because of the current situations. We're not taking a lot of action.
Move to approve the agenda as printed. Second.
All right, we got a motion by Jeff Boone. We have a second by Elbert. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Let's go to the minutes from March the 10th. Everybody had a chance to read those over? Any questions on the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Okay, we got a motion by Albert Bennett to approve the minutes. Second. Got a second by Jeff Sims. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Minutes carry. I do want to mention the courthouse. The courthouse is closed until further notice due to the governor's order to close in-person government services. You can still take care of business, but we just have to do it in a different way for a while. All those courthouse phone numbers are listed on our webpage, caldwellcounty.ky.gov, or our Facebook page, Caldwell County Government. And you can also find them on this live feed that WPKY is putting on. I know this is an inconvenience, so I do apologize. I want to just quickly go over what happens if we get a positive COVID-19 case, and this is the first thing that's going to happen. The governor's office will announce that we have a case, and they will say whether it's a male or female, and they will give their age. And that individual will be hospitalized or self-isolation. And they will resume isolation until they get a test that shows negative. Public Health will conduct an investigation to find out who this person had contact with. They will then contact these people, and they will be put in isolation if need be. And they will be tested if they have symptoms. So that's what will happen if we get a positive case. The past few weeks have been a whirlwind of meetings, conference calls, webinars, and talking to health officials. We are in a preventive mode, and the one thing I can tell you is that everyone is working together. Decisions are being made that will upset some people, and I totally understand. But I promise you these decisions are being made for the best interest of everyone. I did declare a state of emergency last week, and this just simply allows the county to be eligible for emergency funding such as FEMA. For most of us in Caldwell County, COVID-19 will be minimum. If you are young and healthy and you get this virus, you more than likely will bounce back with barely any time off. But the one thing that has caught my attention in the last few weeks, it has taught me that this virus is more infectious than the flu and has a higher mortality rate. What really got my attention is the mortality rate among older people, especially those over 80. An example, if you read a lot about it on the news, is the country of Italy. That country has over 6,000 deaths from COVID-19. About 97% of those deaths have been people over 60, and 80% have been people over 80. Many had health problems like diabetes, emphysema, and heart problems. Most of us have parents, grandparents, neighbors, and friends that fall in that age range, and you would do anything in the world to protect them. So that in itself is reason enough to take all the precautions that are being implemented by both state and federal officials. On a personal note, I have two daughters who work in the medical field. One works at a hospital in Louisville, and the other one works at a hospital in Nashville. Kentucky took steps early to fight the virus, and Tennessee did not. The last time I checked with them, there were 48 cases of COVID-19 in Louisville and 164 in Nashville. The hospital in Louisville is not that bad, but the hospital in Nashville, as my daughter said, is chaotic. So please take the advice of our medical experts. All right, let's get on to the agenda. First thing on the agenda, we have unfinished business. Anybody got any unfinished business? Okay, let's go to new business. First thing on the agenda, we have Ms. Charlotte Cotton here with the Kentucky Department of Transportation. She's going to talk to us about our state roads and the flex funds.
Today, especially under these circumstances. It is our annual time to present for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet the fiscal year 2020-2021 Caldwell County Rural Secondary Program. I delivered a packet, and I think you all should have gotten those. That was to let you look over This year's total allocation that came out in January for the rural secondary program for Caldwell is $664,911. The flex funds amount that is an optional application to county roads or to the state rural secondary program, that is a decision that's made by the fiscal court. That allotment was $100,008. The state rural secondary program roadway amount for the district to apply to the state rural secondaries is $564,904. I've reviewed several roads, and one I think was a carryover from last year. I think I had mentioned was Kentucky 126 in the southern part of the county where we had the bridge that was redone. So I kind of extended that a little bit more, and that has been sort of piecemealed. That is number one on my list. This will go from the last pavement that was roughly at Cravens Road all the way to the county line. I just took it all the way that way, and that will finish out 126. And hopefully we will see that be good for many years.
That's about 3.5 miles.
That is 3.36 miles, yes. The next one is Kentucky 70. That is another one we have piecemealed. I was going to do a little more in the south. Last year we did a lot more in the north. But when I started driving the routes, looking at the roads, we have a lot more in the north kind of than we do in the south on the rural secondary program. That's the other thing we have to remember is when you look at that map, there are very few roads that fall under that rural secondary. And there's some that we think, why do these not and these do? But that's their designation. So I moved back up to 70 and decided to do about almost 2.5 miles there. And that gets a big chunk kind of on the east end of the county. And that will take out a section that was in bad shape. The third one on the list is Kentucky 139, back on the north side. This was a section that I recognized it's a little over a mile when I was driving one day, and I felt like it needed an application of resurfacing more than some other sections did.
Does that start right at Donaldson Road? Kind of like Donaldson?
This is at the Donaldson Road, and it goes north to the first bridge that it comes to right there. The bridge approaches have been done. It looks like within about the last 4 years or something like that. They're in pretty decent shape. So I took it to right there. That gets a chunk, and then hopefully, as we get on through each year, we'll just add a little more and get a few more sections added to it. So that is my recommendation from the district's application this year, and that totals up to 6.922 miles, and that's a total of $564,545. They always do an alternate for the flex funds if the fiscal court were to choose not to take those funds. The alternate, and of course, if it doesn't pick up, I'll pick it up next year on my list probably. But the recommendation I had this year was Kentucky 128. And this is just a little over a mile section that's right off of Kentucky 91 and goes south. That section seems to be a little bit rough and could use some application. That was for a total of $93,697.
What do y'all put down? Y'all put down 1.5 inches of surface?
We put down 1 inch.
1 inch of surface?
Yes.
So you're not going to do any milling?
There will not be any milling other than edge keys, bridge approaches. If there's culverts, large culverts that we need to watch how much weight is over top of those will get milled so that we're basically taking off and putting back that same amount.
I was talking, if you ever do any milling, we'll be glad to take it off your hands.
Most of the time, the milling is done through the FDO5 program. So when we have those projects, they usually get milled.
Right.
So we are hoping to have a good FDO5 project this year, but we're going to have to see what comes through. We're on list, and as money becomes available, if they get to us, hopefully we will get it done. So, but that's my recommendation this year, and if you all have any discussion on any of those, we can.
I just had a question. About the application of the surface that was put down on 293 South last year. There's a lot of questions about that surface, and is that what we're talking about in these applications, or is this?
No, 293 South last year was what they call microsurfacing. And it's actually, it's a preventative maintenance type of pavement, and there's several different ones. There's a microsurface, there's a microsurface thin lay, there's a cape seal. That one actually was a cape seal. That is the first, we've done some thin lay, excuse me, and microsurfacing in Christian County, but we had never done a cape seal in our two counties. That was the first one we did, and that was just, the application's a little bit different with the rock, how that's put on and then worked in. They're wanting to try to do some of that and extend the life of some of our pavements. So when we do apply those, the pavements cannot be really far gone. They cannot be to the point that you have excessive potholes and that type of thing. It just does not work. So it really just has to be a surface that is starting to show a lot of fatigue, but not really deteriorated.
So it's a longevity measure, not a replacement for asphalt.
Right.
Very good, thank you.
It can be milled up. If that comes to having an FD05 in the future type application, it can be, that product can be milled up, just like regular asphalt can. That does have more of a watertight seal, the way that emulsion is applied and put on, whereas with our asphalt, it's more so, it's still a porous material. So you may see some more of those preventative maintenance. That's kind of the way the cabinet is wanting to go, to try to extend the life of a lot of places that don't have maybe as high ADT of traffic. The ones that have the higher truck and that type, it's a little harder. Those usually have to have just your regular resurfacing. But
Charlotte, question on this. Brent Stowns and myself were training not long ago and talked to some representatives on the roads. If the county foregoes the flex fund this year, that will increase our standing in the road standing to allow us to get larger amounts of funds in the future possibly, or am I mixed up on that?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I have not been told that.
Okay. We were told that every county is ranked an A, B, C, or D, and we're a D, which gives us a 10% factor. And that's one thing that's hurting the amount of funding we're getting on state road maintenance. And I'm not picking on you whatsoever, Charlotte.
No, I understand that. And I would have to ask about that, because the way I understand how a lot of the flex funds, there are several factors that go into how we get our amount of money to the county anyway. Population, ratings, funding from other sources type thing. There's a lot of different factors that go in. I have never been told that your decision whether to keep or not keep those flex funds would impact that at all.
Okay.
And I really can't imagine that it does. I'm probably not talking like I should with not knowing
I caught you
for positive on that. But there's a lot of counties that will give the flex funds to the district, and the district has used that money to do even other projects other than resurfacing. They've done culvert replacements and that type, and I've never heard anybody say that that's a negative on the amount that the county gets. So
Brent, wasn't it, I was thinking it was flex funds that we're talking about, am I mistaken?
They've told us that every year.
Okay.
It's based on the amount of, because we've took it every year, we have went down to a D in the class, and it's based on your
Shape of the state roads.
Yeah. And
The better your state roads, the less the county gets,
Yes.
because more money is going to the state roads because they need it.
Yeah, that's the way I understood it. I was making sure that I wasn't misquoting
But I'm gonna make a motion that we take, the county take the $100,008.
See, we got a motion by Brent to accept the flex funds money. We got a second by Jeff Sims. All those in favor, show by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carries. And I assume, Charlotte, we'll send you the minutes for this meeting when we get them done, and we'll be getting a resolution, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We will be turning those into Frankfurt.
Okay, and we'll be getting our rows together to send in too.
Yes, that'll be fine. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Charlotte. Ms. Charlotte is always a good, I can call her anytime and get information from her. Okay, next on the agenda is the monthly financial report. Glenda, you want to come up here if they have any questions, or does anybody have any questions on it? Anybody got any questions? You got anything to say, Glenda?
No, we're actually in pretty good shape today.
Yeah.
Even a little better than last year, so.
Yeah. All right, we need a motion to approve the financial report.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion by Brent Stallings, got a second by Jeff Sims. All those in favor, show by raising your hand. Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have our transfers. Any questions on the transfers? Okay, got a motion by Jeff Sims to approve the transfers. Second. Got a second by Albert. All those in favor, show by raising your hand. Opposed, motion carries. Next, to pay the bills as presented. Thank you for looking over those bills. Appreciate it.
Move we pay the bills as presented.
Okay, got a motion by Jeff Boone to approve the bills. Got a second by Jeff Sims. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, next, we have reports. I've asked some people to kind of present what's going on in the county. First, Mark Harrison, he's with the ambulance service. Just kind of talk to the people out there what's going on in ambulance.
Sure. Good morning. Well, everything has been, with most healthcare providers over the last several weeks, gotten busy. Not just busy with necessarily with patients, but busy planning for what is happening and what is coming. Our goal, and we started very early on when, and kind of lucked out a little bit, when I first heard the first news reports about what was happening over in China, we ordered several things that very quickly got tight and you couldn't get. So we started off with some items that we really needed, that we've got, that we cannot get any longer. Big plus. We currently, as far as PPE, and it's kind of interesting, we've been carrying this same personal protective equipment on ambulances for 25 years, but we rarely used it, just rarely used it. We had to have it, everybody knew how to use it, but we just didn't have a need for it. And now those same items, you know, Joey would pay anything to get today. So anyway, we currently have on hand PPE at the ambulance service to treat 40 patients, 40 high-risk patients, okay? Now, depending on how this thing evolves and it changes every day, you know, we'll see how far that goes. Our goal, our objective really is, and I just picked a number out of the sky because nobody could tell us anything. I picked 1% of Caldwell County's population. 1% is 130, and so our objective short term is to have enough PPE to treat at any given time 130 patients. We are conserving all that we can, but we're using it anytime the patients meet the criteria that fall into that high-risk area. We sent dispatch guidelines to the dispatch centers that ComCare deals with or that we deal with very early, a couple weeks ago, asking the dispatcher to ask a couple of key questions. Does the patient have flu-like symptoms? Do they have fever? For a couple of reasons. Number one, to give our people a heads up about that they may have to be using, they need to have that PPE on before they go in. We restricted if it was a house call, for example, we would only send one of our staff members in initially just to confirm what was going on in an effort to conserve that PPE. We also did not want, or we asked the dispatch centers, don't just automatically send a first responder, a firefighter, or a police officer, some other person to that house. Keep them away, and so they don't have to use their PPE or unnecessarily become exposed. So we're looking for things like fever, cough, difficulty breathing, close contact with anybody that is tested positive. That's great information to have early on. As far as EMS guidance, a couple of weeks ago, or maybe 16 days ago, we came out with our first set of specific guidance for our staff members. And the whole approach to this is staff safety. Staff safety is the number one most important thing for us. We want to avoid our staff either getting ill or taking it home to their parents or their spouse or their kids, or becoming a quarantine person. Because like everybody else, we have a limited number of staff members. And if we lose somebody for 2 weeks, because they didn't wear a mask when they should have and somebody later tested positive, it's a big deal. It happens, it can happen so fast. The second thing we're looking at is we want to be safe. We want to provide safety to the patients. We want to provide good care just like we always have. And we want to take care of the hospital. That's our three really objectives. I've had discussions with Doug at the hospital, and of course he understands, and this thing changes, day to day. If things really get busy, hospitals are going to be probably in a harder, tougher position than even we will be. Because, when they fill up, what are they going to do? If the hospital fills up with patients here, probably all the regional hospitals are full, which is where they would typically transfer patients to. So that's going to be a real interesting thing to kind of watch. And we're going to help, obviously, all that we can. Our guidance to our staff members has followed the guidance come down from the CDC, Public Health Department, and K-beams. We adopted the high-risk criteria from what they recommended. We have done a great deal of training and retraining on doffing PPE, when to use it, how to properly put it on, how to properly take it off to keep yourself from being contaminated or contaminating an area that you don't need to. Procedures, certain medical procedures that we would routinely do in the ambulance, we're having to think about some of those a little bit harder today, because some of those invasive procedures requires not just the standard PPE or the N95 mask, but it requires either a capper or a PAPR, which is a powered air respirator. We have one pair of those here at Caldwell County, 2 of them, and we initially had none, and I borrowed one from Paducah and one from Marshall County, and so we have that. But we don't keep it on the truck, because you never know what truck it needs to be on, and so, we've got some challenges there logistically to work through some of that. But again, the key is going to be keeping the people safe. We created an inventory spreadsheet a couple of weeks ago that I update every morning, and it shows exactly what PPE individually we have on hand. We have shared that file over the internet with the state EMS office, and they're looking at that and monitoring that. They can see that in real time, anytime they want to. We have stepped up, obviously, became very aggressive with cleaning and disinfecting not only the ambulances but the station 4 or 5 times a day. We've got people that run around in the station and wipe down doorknobs and computers and phones and things that you typically touch, and we do the same thing in the ambulance. We sat out there one day and just said, okay, what do we really touch in these trucks? And it would surprise you. You come up with a lot of things that you don't think about. So we're trying to really watch that. Hopefully, and one concern, a question that I have, and I guess it may come up in somebody else's report, if we really get busy, the first challenge too that we're going to have, and many others in the room, is going to be daycare. for employees, not only just daycare, but night care as well. So something we need to maybe look into that. But that's all I have as far as a report, unless you have questions.
Any questions?
Thank
Mark,
you.
I appreciate everything.
You bet. You're welcome.
Okay, next, Chris Knoll. You want to talk to us about 911 services? A lot of changes. I just want to make sure everybody out there knows of all those changes we're going through.
Thank you, Judge Magistrates, for this opportunity to speak to you all in public about what our dispatch center is currently doing. There's not a whole lot of difference as far as our dispatch center and how we're handling things during this crisis. We're still receiving calls as far as administration or 911 calls that we're still providing services to the community, still providing information to our emergency services or members of the community as we always have. The only difference that we're doing is mainly just kind of vetting, talking to the caller as far as us requesting some kind of action for service, just specific questions as Mark had discussed as far as coughing, fever, been around anybody that's known to be infected with coronavirus, just normal questions like that, so that way we can give that information to our emergency services. We do that, we provide that information to emergency services, and heaven forbid that we had a case here, but we also have a way to mark that house or that location in case that does come up. Then we can also provide that information to any emergency services that gets to that call at a later time. Just normal as everybody else, as far as probably in the room is doing, as far as the cleanliness inside the dispatch center, we actually have protocols in place to where the room is wiped down on a regular basis. We've asked our local law enforcement to stay out of the room, till this resolves itself, or just limiting the contact with our dispatchers with the rest of the community.
Any questions, Chris?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris. Okay, Brent Francis with the fire department.
Okay, in the fire rescue world, we've, like everybody else, suspended all meetings and all training sessions, trying to limit gathering as much as we can. Joey got us some masks where we help EMS at vehicle accidents and things like that. We've changed our procedures where, and I really hadn't had a chance to talk to Mark, but we'll be sending one firefighter up. Sometimes we're there first, sometimes EMS is there first. All the firefighters will remain in the apparatus until the one officer in charge assesses the situation. If there's no entrapment, if there's no, there's not a mass casualty type incident where the crew would be overwhelmed with serious injuries, then the fire department plans on, leaving the patient treatment up to EMS because y'all have more protective gear than we've got. Joey got us the mask the other day, for us to wear. We also have SCBAs available to us that we can wear too. We're going to be responding to a few more vehicles so we can separate the firefighters a little bit more. In our our custom cabs that hold 6, we're not going to put any more than 4 in all 4 corners. The commercial trucks that will seat 3, we're only allowing 2. So we may see a few more vehicles responding so we can spread our people out a little bit more. But we're going to limit our exposure, to the public as much as possible. We will still assist EMS if you have patients that are critically injured and you don't have enough people there to handle all of them. We will help with those. But outside of y'all being overwhelmed a little bit with serious injuries, we plan on not coming in contact with the public and as few of the firefighters as possible coming in contact with them. And of course, if we do, then those people won't be allowed to get back in with the rest of the firefighters. They'll be separated and come back and shower and change clothes to try to prevent, because like Mark said, there's only about 34 of us, and if we wind up getting quarantined some kind of way, then, it'll shut the fire rescue service down in the county. So we're basically down to just our very core mission of fighting fires and and extrications and rescues where EMS will have to have help, off-road type situations and things like that, and working with them. So to try to limit our exposure as much as possible, we've asked the firefighters, not to try to stay away from everybody as much as possible, and we don't allow them to gather, around and stay separated. And wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Do y'all have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Question I'd like to ask, I know y'all depend on the Fredonia Fire Department quite often.
Yes.
On some runs down in the northern end of the county. Have they been equipped with some of this equipment that's what y'all got?
Yes. Yes.
I was just thinking y'all talking about that.
Yes.
I wanted to, because I didn't know, I was certain they was aware of the severity of this. And,
and when we have a call down in that area, we cut back on the number of apparatus that we send until it can be confirmed, that anything else is going to be needed. So that helps cut down on exposure a little bit. And Fredonia is real good about getting there in that northeast end of or northwest end of the county and letting us know whether they're going to need any additional help from us or not. All that cuts down on the exposure. But our guys are not getting out of the trucks unless the one officer in charge orders them off the truck. Other than that, they're staying on the trucks, away from the public. Any more?
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have the Sheriff's Department, Stan Hudson.
Well, I'm going to talk about the office first. Right now, I'm utilizing 2 girls, and I'm rotating them just in case they do become contaminated, which we hope that doesn't happen. We're still, of course, collecting property taxes, but they need to be mailed. We're not doing CCDWs, and we're not doing inspections right now, just to keep from being in close proximity with the people, because that's not absolutely necessary. Any non-emergency calls, if my deputies can handle them by telephone, I'm asking them to do that. And of course, they've been provided with the masks. Joey provided us with some masks, and we've been provided with sprays where we can spray down back seats if we have to transport or arrest anyone and put them back there. And of course, the gloves, we have to wear the gloves, and we'll be, of course, we'll work close with Brent and Mark and everyone on who does what, when and where, just to keep everyone safe. But we'll still remain with high visibility in the community. Of all emergency calls will be answered. Let's see. I'm keeping a regular scheduled shift. I'm going to keep as many, deputies out as I can. And they're still going to answer their calls as they can. But we had a transport the other day just to bring up, we're not transporting any. I talked to John this morning, and we're not transporting prisoners back and forth from the jails because they're just leaving them in place. And I'm sure I've missed something because I didn't write down anything. Has anybody got any questions?
Well, have you seen any kind of, any more problems out, such as theft and anything like that, since all of this has started?
No, no, actually the call volume's been down. I think people are taking note of what's been on the news and what y'all have put out as far as how dangerous this is and how bad it will spread. But they've been very cooperative. The community's really been good about that. And we've had a few people call, wanted us to come out and deal with a dog or something that's really not an emergency, and we've tried to handle it on the phone, but you're gonna have a little bit of that. But if it's something serious where there's public safety involved, and I'm just like Brent and Mark was talking about earlier, my staff's got to stay safe. They can't, because if they get it and the law enforcement goes down, then when something serious comes up, we won't be able to take care of it because we'll have to quarantine for 14 days. And we don't want that to happen because we want to be available if something serious happens. That's why we're not taking, any non-serious emergency calls. But we will be visible, be ready to handle anything. And of course, the sheriff's office number is 270-365-2088. Call us with any questions, any problems, and we'll assist you in any way. Anything else?
Thanks, Stan. Tony, you got anything you want to share? Tony Watson with the County Clerk's Office.
We are down to half staff. The courthouse is closed, and I appreciate Larry doing that. We are sanitizing like everyone else, washing our hands. We are doing renewals over the phone, which includes a credit card fee, or through the mail. We got 32 in yesterday that we renewed and got mailed out. We are waiving the $2 mail-in fee while this is going on. If you are late, say April 6th, we will remove interest and penalty from it while this crisis is going on. We are not doing transfers. We did last week. We would let the buyer and the seller in, stand at the front of the courthouse, but I chose to stop that. We were getting a lot of calls from other counties where their people are not doing it. It was putting Stan's employee out inspecting the cars in a tight spot, so we decided to stop that. We are working up transfers through the mail if they do not have to be inspected. We're still doing business, we're just doing it in a different way. I didn't really realize I was older until all this criteria come out. And there's several of us that are. I have young mothers working, and all of our families. We want to keep everybody safe and just keep hoping and praying that it doesn't come to our county.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, County Attorney, Roy Massey.
The first thing I want to address this morning is how we're conducting our fiscal court meetings. As everyone's aware, our fiscal court meeting is closed to the public. The Open Meetings Act requires any governmental body be open to the public for meetings. However, our Attorney General's office issued an opinion March 18th and said that due to the state and federal mandates in regards to social distancing, that's not feasible or practical to ask the public to come to one gathering place due to COVID-19. So therefore, for the foreseeable future, we can't thank WPKY enough for broadcasting this live. We'll be probably meeting like this. As you can see, we're trying to social distance this morning. We're meeting in our circuit courtroom for those purposes. But hopefully we can get back some normalcy at some point in time and actually invite the public back to our meetings. If anyone in the public viewing this has any type of concerns or has trouble viewing this, please contact Larry's office or my office. We'll be glad to address those concerns for you. With the County Attorney's Office, as everyone's well aware, the judicial system is essentially shut down except for mandatory hearings. We do not have court anymore, except it's going to be via Skype. It happened this past Monday. Our Thursday dockets are canceled indefinitely till the April or June dockets. If you do have a court case or involved in a court case that was scheduled for sometime this month that has been posted sometime in April or sometime in June, you can contact my office or Danny Hooks' office to get those court dates. But the only hearings that we are having at this point in time are those that are necessary for individuals that are incarcerated. The County Attorney's Office is open. I'm at half staff as well. We have one staff member in a day, but we are open for business. If you need anything or have anything to be concerned about, you can contact us. We're still working up those court cases. Also, the Child Support Office is still staffed and running. If you need something from the Child Support Office, that number is 365-6943, and the County Attorney's Office is 365-5613. As far as the Child Support Office goes, we're not taking any type of in-house payments. You have to mail those to a Frankfurt address. We'll be glad to provide that to you if you call the office. The same thing with the County Attorney's Office. We're not accepting type of restitution payments in-house, but you can mail those to our office. We'll be glad to put those through as well. Other than that, business is as usual. We're cleaning and sanitizing our office as well. But if you need something from the criminal aspect, I'll be glad to work with law enforcement, Stan's office, of course. We'll be glad to take any type of criminal complaints that you have, forward those along for investigation, and talk with you over the phone for those matters. Anybody have any questions in regards to that?
No, we did talk about net profits, and he's going to work on an ordinance of that. So if you do net profits, we are changing that to July 15th.
Yeah, but me and Larry did talk about that. We'll have a resolution draft for our next meeting to address in that regard too. Thank you all.
All right, next we have our Emergency Management Director, Joey McCaslin. He has put in 72 hours this last week. He's been busy.
Okay. First of all, I may hurt some feelings, but I'm not politically correct most of the time.
I do think Joey checked everybody's temperature coming in here, so we're all good.
And I just did a cardinal sin. I rubbed my face. You're not supposed to be rubbing your face. You need to distance yourself. All right. Quit worrying about what could happen and have a little faith. There's no reason to worry about everything that you have no control over. Quit hoarding. If people would quit hoarding, we will not have a problem with getting groceries and toilet paper. Spread out. We've spread out here. Everybody in the courtroom is spread out. You need to spread out. It does work. So get your social distance. I heard a friend's feelings yesterday at Walmart that I hadn't seen in probably 6 months or so, and he wanted to talk to me. Well, he kept walking towards me, and I kept backing up. And every time I'd back up, he'd just take another step, and then finally he realized what I was doing. But that's just part of it. I'm one that always shakes hands with everybody. We've got to quit that. We've got to change our mentality right now. I know people are getting cabin fever, but stay home if you can. We can beat this thing if we can stop the socializing and stop making unnecessary trips to the store. Now, if you've got to go to the store, you've got to go get medicine, yes. But don't go to Walmart or Food Giant and stand in the aisles and start congregating and visiting. That's the way we always did it here in Caldwell County. We've always done that, but we're going to have to change our mentality for right now. The government and a lot of the businesses are having to change the way they operate. The governor's order came out yesterday, no, day before yesterday, of everything that was going to close. All non-essential businesses were ordered to close. Follow the guidelines, please. I drove around Sunday morning. I got out about 10 o'clock and went to every church inside of Princeton that I could think of. I did not find one church that looked like they were having church services. I heard yesterday, though, that there was one out in the county that had church services. I don't know if they went in the church and had church services or if they parked in the parking lot and had church service. But please, separate yourself. Don't congregate. Stay separate for a while. Avoid close contact if at all possible. Emergency service people, the medical profession, law enforcement, the jail, these agencies have to have close contact with people. But for the general public, stay away. Don't have close contact. And like Brent said, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Social distancing will work. It will cut down on the Corona-19 spread if you practice it. It's getting to the point that the citizens and businesses, if the citizens and the businesses don't start following the guidelines, enforcement is just around the corner, and they will start enforcing this. They've got to kill this. Testing. Yes, there have been some cases, some people that were tested in the county, but there are no positive cases that they found in Caldwell County so far. Again, there's no, now that may have changed in the last 30 minutes. That's the last time I checked my phone when I got an update from the state EOC. But there is still no positive cases in Caldwell County. Some of the medical clinics, they are performing tests. This is all handled through our health department. They're on top of it. The medical center is on top of it out here. The doctor's offices are on top of it. They're taking precautions. Okay, drive-through testing. It's coming, and you might as well get ready, because it's probably already in this community. But the people are probably asymptomatic. They don't know that they've got it. But when we start testing, when we start doing a lot of testing, we will probably find something in this county. Don't panic. It's not a death sentence. So it's coming. We've been working since last week at a local level. There's a committee put together. We've got the plans almost finalized for doing a drive-through testing in the county. We're not ready to put it out yet. As soon as we get the go-ahead from the state officials of exactly what they want to do, it will be put out, and we will have drive-through testing. Quarantine and self-isolation. You know, I was like everybody else. I was probably using the wrong term, was quarantine. Quarantine. You need to self-quarantine. Not really that. You need to self-isolate. If you will remember, if you go visit somebody in the hospital, you may walk by a room at the hospital that's got an isolation sign on the door, and it's got the gowns and everything on the outside. Anybody that goes in that room is supposed to put on PPE to go in to be with that patient. We need, if you think that you're sick, if you will self-isolate, keep a check on your temperature, and unless you get sick, you will probably be okay. We need to practice. If you feel like a lot of people are getting sick, this is a time of the year when you get colds, sniffles, the weather changing back and forth, pollen starting to come. So is it just like coughing? I was afraid I'd start coughing when I got up here because I was coughing a minute ago and I had to keep drinking water. I'm not sick. Everybody in this room tested below 100 degrees. The CDC now, as of last night, they've changed their guidelines. They used to say that you needed to self-isolate for 14 days. They have lowered that to 7 days. 1 week. If everybody could, which they can't, but if everybody that possibly could would stay at home for 1 week, we would probably be able to really hold it down in this community. 7 days. They're asking you to isolate yourself for 7 days. And I know people, the older people, they like to talk on the phone, they like to visit. Talk on the phone. Don't go visit. If I met a woman yesterday at the store when I was out there. She's 92 years old, still gets around. And when I was in another checkout line, and when I left, I gave her a card. I said, "You call me. I'll go to the grocery for you." "Well, I like to get out." I said, "I know you do, but you don't need to be out right now." I said, "I'll pick up whatever you need or have somebody do it." So we need to try to heed the word of the federal government, the state government, and your local government. Rumors. Oh, my Lord. How many rumors have y'all heard? There's all these rumors going out. It's just too many. Stop spreading the misinformation. Don't share stuff on Facebook if you don't know what you're talking about before you make a fool out of yourself. There's a lot of stuff that's being reposted and sharing, and there are some scams going on out there now, too. I've got that over here in a few minutes. A SIT report. It's a situation report. We get a situation report every afternoon from the state EOC. It's usually, they put it out about 5 o'clock. Sometimes it'll be closer to 7 o'clock before we get it. But we get a situation report every afternoon. The situation report on the 22nd, there was 103 cases, confirmed cases in the state of Kentucky with 3 fatalities. This is like a 13-page report. I'm just going to give you some highlights. Again, they are about to finalize the drive-through testing centers throughout the state. Their IT department is working on it. to be able to track the information. The community test sites have been identified. Now, this is coming from the state. That is subject to change. They have identified them, though. There was 113 counties that had declared an emergency, 97 cities that had declared. The county, on the 22nd, there was 19 counties with confirmed cases. On the resource request and the supplies we're getting in, the state had in progress 186 requests for PPE and other items, and they had completed 138. All right. Then, on the 23rd, at 5 o'clock, Kentucky had jumped to 124 confirmed cases. And we had our fourth confirmed death. The counties that had declared was 118, had jumped up. The cities had jumped up to 110. So there was only 2 counties as of yesterday that had not declared a state of emergency. And one of them, there's only one left, because one of them had sent in a verbal. You can send in a verbal, and you got like a few hours to get your written declaration in. So there's only one county as of yesterday afternoon that hadn't declared. The governor has asked houses of worship to ring their church bells at 10 a.m. daily. The state has banned mass gatherings. The governor requested that superintendents keep the school closed at least until April the 20th. I think our school, there I go again. I think our school has, before that came out, they had already said they wasn't going back till after the 17th, they'd reevaluate it. CDC, I've already told you about that. The state has identified 3 labs to do the testing so far, but some of the private healthcare facilities, they have their own labs that may be a different lab that is actually allowed to perform them. They've been cleared by the Department of Health. Resource requests, there was 228 in progress and 143 had been done. All right, that's all on the situation report. All right. FDA alert. Coronavirus, COVID-19, unauthorized fraudulent test kits. Somebody is already putting out that you can get a home test kit. It's a fraudulent, it's a scam. Stay away from them. There's a rumor, well, there's not a rumor, it's going around. A lot of places are having problems coming up with face masks. They are asking people to make face masks for healthcare workers. I have an email from Doug James. They are not going to accept them at the hospital because they have plenty. Hopefully we won't get to that point. But there are plenty of PPE in the county at the present time. Now, we have to keep replenishing it. And I got an email Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember, I think it was Saturday morning, asking me to reconfirm our pod drop for our supplies and be prepared to receive another drop of supplies somewhere around the first of the week. Date and time and what it was would be coming. Still haven't heard what it's going to be or when it's going to be. But we don't have a problem where they're asking people to make masks. Now, if you want to make a mask for yourself, but for the healthcare profession and first responders, we're going to see that they've got the proper PPE. I've got a copy of the state of emergency order that the governor passed on the 22nd, and it also lists in his executive order all the non-essential businesses that would have to close, and it also shows which were allowed to stay open. Do the 5 Help stop coronavirus. Hands. Wash them often. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Elbow. Cough into your elbow. Face. Try to not touch your face. And I've done it several times since I've been up here. But try not to touch your face. Space. Keep a safe distance. Try to stay at least 6 feet from everybody. Home. Stay at home if you can. A lot of people can't stay at home. But if we would stay at home, we probably could whip this thing in less than 2 weeks, especially in the rural area. We're sort of rural here. Now, the larger cities, you know, I can see all kind of issues. But check on your neighbor. Don't hug your neighbor. We haven't had any real problems that I know of yet. Supplies, we got a shipment. Caldwell County is the central pod site for all the 9 counties in the old Pennyroyal region. Even though part of us are in this region for something else and this region for something else, all 9 counties' supplies came in last Thursday. Within 45 minutes, we had 18 pallets unloaded, put in the building at the training center. After we got them all checked in about 15, 20 minutes, within 35 minutes after that, all had gone out, with the exception of one county that was running late because they had to go to Henderson to pick up other supplies before they came here. But it went like clockwork. Daycares. Somebody said something about daycares. The health department is working on a plan, and I think we've got all the numbers. They're working with setting up daycare facilities for essential service personnel, hospitals, and first responders. The problem that I heard, I sat in on that meeting just a little bit, it may be that most daycare centers are just during the daytime, and we may have some issues with nighttime. So I don't know where they are on that, but they are working on that. Fredonia Fire Department and the jail were the first 2 that got the PPE. They got it Saturday. We got it Thursday. I got it requested, and because this is a public health issue. We had our supplies taken to the hospital and locked up in central stores. The way it works, Mark requests stuff, Brent requests stuff through me. I sign off on it. It's forwarded to Doug James. They get it together. They call. We go pick it up, and then we give it to them. That's the way we're doing it right now. So the PPE went out Saturday because it took me Friday afternoon and then I started Saturday putting some of it out. The rest of it was all delivered yesterday. So the first PPE went out on Saturday. It was for the Fredonia Fire Department, picked up theirs, and the jail. The jail is really, really worried, not just this jail, all the jails across the Commonwealth. One jail in Western Kentucky has already gone on lockdown. And I don't know if they're still on lockdown or not. I mean, that includes the jail personnel. Nobody goes in, nobody goes out. They're not doing a shift change or anything. They've completely locked it down. Because in a jail situation, if it gets in there, it's just like if somebody gets a cold at the jail, they all get the cold because of the proximity. They are trying to limit the access and trying to spread them out. The rest of the services that got PPE was the Princeton Fire Department, Princeton Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, and the Coroner's Office. That's about all I've got. Anybody got any questions?
Appreciate the job you're doing, Joey.
Thank you. We're trying.
See
y'all.
Okay, we're going to give the mattress opportunity. If you got anything you want to say, Albert, you got anything?
Not a lot. I personally want to thank you, Larry, and the other magistrates, Dakota, and also the Mayor of Fredonia, and all you gentlemen that spoke today for the job that you're doing. I know this, a lot of us took this kind of lightly when it first started, and now we realize the severity of it. And those, Joey, you mentioned Doug James 2 or 3 times. We were lucky to have that gentleman at the hospital. I know he served on the health board with me, and Jim Tolley also with acting director of the health department. We are fortunate to have those people, and I want to thank each one of y'all for the job that y'all are doing. I can't thank y'all enough for what y'all done during this, and I know hopefully that we won't have any cases here, but I know y'all will be on top of things if we should. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. District 2, Jeff Boone, you got anything you want to share?
I just appreciate all the emergency personnel, everything that's being done. The rest of us don't realize the amount of hours, the risk that these people put themselves in for our safety on a regular basis. It's easy to get frustrated when we can't have business as usual because, let's just admit it, we're all Americans, we're all spoiled to death. We want to do what we want to do when we want to do it. But it's time we worry about staying 6 feet apart or possibly end up 6 feet under. It's just that simple. It's whichever 6 you want, but I appreciate all the effort that's being put in, all the extra time. I'm sure if we had a time clock on any of these people, I think the general public would be dumbfounded how many hours Joey in particular has put in, probably since the first rumor of the COVID-19 come out. But I appreciate all that each and every one of these do.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, District 3, Brent.
The only thing I would add is I appreciate all the work. We will get through this, and I would urge prayer and do the essentials, the 5 that Joey has mentioned, and we will get through this as Americans.
Thank you, Brent. District 4, Jeff Sims, you got anything?
Yes, I wanted to take the opportunity, of course, to thank the first responders and everybody that's engaged in this, but a group that I want to isolate as well that hadn't been mentioned today is our cafeteria workers at the schools and what they're doing for our children in this community through that feeding program. I know Will Brown has done an exceptional job communicating that. The superintendent and the schools, the teachers, as far as preparing the packets for all the kids and giving them that work to do at home. Some of it I can't figure out. My daughter's in preschool, but you know, I'm gonna learn too, I guess. But in all seriousness, appreciate everybody's work and continuing effort in corralling this. One thing that I wanted to do on the other side of under another hat is update people on WCA and the trash service. We have several protocols. I was on a call this morning actually. That are going in place that have already been instituted, and I kind of want to walk people through, since I have the audience for the city and county and then the counties that we serve in West Kentucky and every state that we serve in the U.S. And I'll just go through these briefly. Effective March 17th, non-essential WCA employees will telecommute or work from home to follow CDC recommendations on social spacing. Access to our offices, the transfer station here in Princeton, will be restricted. Payments will be accepted over the phone, online, and by mail. Regular trash, recycling, and disposal service will continue, but there will be delays. Limit person-to-person contact. Essential operations will be at our offices to monitor our hauling, landfills, and transfer station duties and waste needs, as well as our phone lines. 2 numbers I want to give everybody. 270-365-6200 is our local office. Any customer billing or service issues, they can call 1-800-323-7548 or email kycustomerservice@wcamerica.com. One request that has also came out of this morning's conference call is that we are requiring residential customers until further notice, and this is a good practice anyway for our trash being blown on the roads and everything else, but we are requiring bagged trash. No drivers will be allowed from here on to step outside of the cab of that vehicle. We will not allow trash on the ground, anything around the trash cans, and then all trash must be bagged. The reason for this is very similar to everybody you've heard from now, is that if we have an infection amongst our driver base, we'll be forced to shut down. We do have plans in place should that happen. If we have a positive COVID-19 test, our operation in Princeton that services this region of Caldwell County and Princeton will cease to operate for the quarantine period. So we want to, at all costs, try to avoid that. So everything that you've heard today about social distancing, hand washing, all those protocols are in place. However, this virus can live on plastic, which is your trash can, for 72 hours. That's the CDC guidance on all plastics. So if you're rolling this card out, even though it's your trash, keep in mind that that is just a infection point for our drivers and our personnel. So there'll be no hand pickup of trash until further notice for any reason. All of it will be done mechanically by arm, and that will require bagged trash. So our commercial customers won't be as effective because it's not touched, but if you have large pieces of cardboard that you want to put in your residential bin, it will need to be dissected and put in bags. No cans that aren't bagged will be picked up or addressed. So I just want to make that clear to our residents and our customers because we just cannot take the risk of infecting our drivers, or we won't have service at all. So we appreciate your cooperation on this matter. Again, you will see some delays. We are structuring priority customers, hospitals, pharmacies, places that have acute needs and the level of the possible contamination to their waste. We are handling that differently as well. So I wanted to take the time to communicate all that with you guys. Of course, I'm always available for questions. But we ask for your patience during this time, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. You know, I was just thinking, if I go back and watch this video, I bet I touched my face 100 times. No doubt. It's just almost impossible. My nose itches all the time. This does include our meeting. Again, and I would like to say, we've gone over an hour. We have never gone over an hour before. You want to come to our meetings, they're usually shorter than this. But again, thanks to WPKY and those that are watching. I know this is a very unusual and tough time for everybody. I've lived in Caldwell County my entire life. But one thing I know about Caldwell, when they take care of each other, they look after each other. Our next meeting is 3 weeks away because we had 5 Tuesdays in this month. So anybody wanting to address the fiscal court on Tuesday, April the 14th, should contact the judge's office no later than Friday, April the 10th. Finally, I just want to leave you with this quote. If you ever drive to Hoptown or just church, it always has these, I call them just good quotes on their signs. Yesterday, the quote said, "Remember to love your neighbor, but from a distance." That is our meeting, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, you know, you talk about washing your hands. I've washed mine so many times, I found the answers for my 8th grade test on my hands. I've washed them so many times.
Oh, okay.
And Larry, people can get updates through our Facebook page. I know you mentioned that, but anything that we get from the governor's office and any pertinent information for county, we're Sharon City, Fredonia, City of Princeton and stuff, the state stuff, please continue to track that for the most accurate information that we can provide.
What did you decide to do on the grocery shopping?
Yes, if there's some older people out there that need help, call the judge's office. We've got some people that have volunteered to go pick those groceries up for you or prescriptions. Be glad to do that. Joey said, like the 92-year-old, call us. We'll help you out. Be glad to do that, okay? And this does adjourn our meeting. I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
We got a motion by Jeff Boone and a second by Elbert. So we are adjourned. Thank you for attending the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for attending.